I've seen things. A few things before. Left the sun and moon behind. Galaxies waiting to be found. Planets rich in resources. Battles to be fought. Treasures unknown. A universe you wouldn't believe.
Before its launch in 2016, No Man's Sky had garnered a level of excitement and anticipation that is rarely ever seen in gaming. It was easily one of the most hyped projects I have personally ever seen in all of my years playing games, and unfortunately, when the game launched, at least in terms of the mainstream gaming world, it did not live up to that expectation or sustain the excitement it had generated up until launch day. There have always been people, myself included, that for whatever reason just fell in love with No Man's Sky. From the very moment they first jumped into its crazy, vibrant universe, it delivered something for a certain hardcore fan base that no other game ever really had. A feeling of wonder and excitement that you either really experienced with the game, or you just did not get at all. The fans that have always liked No Man's Sky have always really liked No Man's Sky, and the developers Hello Games have openly stated that it was that enthusiasm and that passion from the players who did love the game and believed in its vision that kept them going through the launch backlash. It drove them to try and build on the game and deliver on the No Man's Sky dream, and my gosh, did they improve the game again and again and again and again and again. Free update after free update, adding hundreds of new features and improvements over the last few years. Everything from base building to vehicles to real co-op multiplayer, improved graphics, textures, better UI, better inventory management, ship classes, freighters, frigates, a complete visual overhaul, new story, new lore, more new vehicles, community events, missions, variety improvements, better creature AI, new planets, new plant life, new creatures, just to scratch the surface. No Man's Sky is not the game it once was, and today it has pretty much overcome the majority of that negativity that followed it right from the original launch. With the No Man's Sky Next update largely swinging reviews and mainstream opinions on the game into the positive for the first time ever. And Hello Games have continued to build on that with more large content updates for free ever since, with the Abyss and Visions being some of the most recent updates with large content drops, but there's still something that many players and critics continue to mention on occasion. The pre-release trailers, that E3 footage that people all around the world fell in love with and were captivated by. That footage that sparked the original hype for the game but wasn't actually what it ended up evolving into. The truth is, the game has taken many different directions and added all kinds of content and stylistic changes that mean it will almost certainly never ever look like the game that was showcased in those trailers at events like E3 before it released. Not less, not more, just different. There are so many things that No Man's Sky has now that mean it's way more than what was ever talked about or shown back then. But there are also aspects in those trailers that players wish had ended up in the game, and that is exactly why this video has started with a bit of a trip down No Man's Sky memory lane. Now, the biggest ever update is coming to No Man's Sky this summer. Bigger than Next, bigger than anything that's come before it, and we know that it's going to add new multiplayer and social aspects to the game, as well as fully fledged VR compatibility without the need for some sort of separate cut down game mode. But that's not all this update is going to add. No Man's Sky Beyond is a 3-part update, with the third and final part of the update not being revealed just yet. We haven't even had a hint or a whisper or some sort of clue or indication about exactly what part 3 of the Beyond update might contain. And with it being the one that they've saved until last to announce, you can be pretty dang sure it's going to be the icing on the Beyond cake. The big one. So what could this final element actually be? It's time for some L-Play's speculation. Giant snakes, desert worlds, bioluminescent worlds, improved variation, bigger, better creatures, NPCs exploring the wilderness, rivers, huge planetary buildings and structures to explore, the everything update. That is what I genuinely believe we may well be getting with No Man's Sky Beyond. I get it, I'm always hyped for No Man's Sky, I'm always the one that gets crazily excited for the next big update, and I absolutely love letting my speculation run wild and just having fun thinking about all of the endless possibilities that this game opens up. But I've also never been wrong to believe in Hello Games before. Every single time I've been crazily excited for a massive update or a huge overhaul, or said again and again that things like VR are gonna make it into the game, even when everyone's telling me that I'm completely wrong or that I'm crazy or that I'm overhyped, they've always delivered time and time again. They've somehow still managed to surprise and surpass even my expectation with the big content updates that they've added to the game. And we know that this is the biggest update yet. Now, I've thrown out some pretty hefty things there, but I want to talk very quickly about exactly where I'm coming from with this particular speculation video. We know from recent interviews and posts that it is the biggest update they've ever worked on. I've said that a few times, but they have said that themselves. That's not just me guessing or assuming or speculating. This is a major update, bigger than any update we have seen so far. We know that after Next, there was a time when they thought they didn't have another big update in them. That, at the time, they were thinking was going to be it. The final big update to the game was going to be No Man's Sky Next. They didn't have a pre-planned mega update already on the horizon at that point. And of course, while they were going to keep supporting and improving the game, and we always would have seen smaller updates continuing after that, there wasn't going to be another one of those times where it was, bam, something absolutely monumental is coming to No Man's Sky. But then, of course, Next went down an absolute storm. It truly was a monumental update, and it was the shifting point in the history of No Man's Sky, because it really did mark a point in time where the majority of reviewers and media outlets, as well as things like Steam review scores, all shifted from being negative to mostly positive. It was the greatest comeback in gaming history, in my opinion, and the negativity for the most part was left behind with the next update. They had vindicated themselves, and the pressure wasn't really about fixing or completing the game anymore. They had done that. Hello Games since then have been able to just have a bit more fun with it, to work on cool things they want to do that they think are exciting. Things like VR that they know ultimately most of the player base probably isn't going to jump into, but at the same time, it's something they want to do. It's something they can do now, it's something they've got breathing space to do, and it's something they just think is cool and exciting. I believe that Beyond is going to be the last big update for No Man's Sky. Not the end of all updates, but the last really huge one, the last big finale that we see. Don't worry, I do think they're going to keep supporting the game, and I think we'll still get some smaller updates along the road, but I feel like this is kind of an end point, the end of an era for No Man's Sky, the close of that major update cycle that we've all gotten used to, and it's because of that that I really do think it would make a whole heap of sense for this update, for this final part of Beyond, to focus on some of those dreams that Hello Games presented in those early trailers. What better closing chapter than to say, you know what, we didn't just keep going, we didn't just turn it around for No Man's Sky, we didn't just deliver so much more than that original vision that we had, but actually, here's one more update that does go back and tick off all of those big key things that long-time followers of the game have always wanted and asked for. All of those things that we couldn't do back then that we wanted to. The things that we thought we were going to add to the game, but for whatever reason just didn't quite make it, or we weren't able to deliver in the way that we wanted to. the things that mean that that pre-release footage isn't just a dream or a concept anymore. And finally, an end to those conversations you still hear every now and again from people saying, but you never did this, or you promised that and it never made it, so I don't care about all this other crazy awesome stuff that you've done since then. Not because they have to do that anymore or because they're feeling the pressure to, but because they've had the time to grow as a studio, to improve, and because now they're at a point in time where some of those early features that didn't end up being realistic or achievable now actually are possible for them. And yes, this is speculation only. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe the third part of the update is going to be something completely random, some crazy thing way out of left field that none of us are expecting at all, but I just cannot shake this feeling that this really could be the everything update. The update where they say all of those major things we ever really wanted to do, we've done them. We've ticked all of those boxes. We are 100% happy with No Man's Sky, and you're going to love this update. Now, I've always said I believe the giant snake-style creatures would make it into the game, and with more improvements to the online and multiplayer modes coming, I could see this being the perfect time for that. Co-op teams fighting together to take down a huge mega snake as some sort of mini co-op raid or boss type battle would be freaking awesome. The kind of awesome sci-fi structures that are littered throughout the art book and early concept art for the game, and the kind of stuff that we saw glimpses of in those early trailers, things like the giant red metal tower structure that I always talk about excitedly. These are the kind of things that would make exploring planets more fun. Discovering these crazy mega structures and exploring them would be awesome. I've seen glimpses of that in some really good mods for the game, but it's never quite as polished and as exciting as what you know Hello Games could do if they wanted to. Rivers is another one, something that we've seen since day one in artwork and we've heard them talk about, but we also know from things like their GDC talks is incredibly difficult for them to actually implement into the game with the way their procedural generation and the game engine works. They've been optimizing, they've been learning, they've been tweaking ever since the game launched. If ever there was a time to believe that they might be ready to put things like rivers, maybe even things like waterfalls into the game, then it's now. Some of that crazy density and variety in animal and plant life that we saw in small spaces on worlds like Aurea 5. The cool giant creatures like the E3 Diplo or the Rhino. With the optimization that we know they're making to the game at the moment, there's definitely a chance that we could see heaps of this looking better than ever with this update. Things that are gonna make the game worlds just come to life so much more than they can at the moment. NPCs walking around out in the wilderness. Why not? We already know that NPCs are going to move in the game now. They're not going to be static. The people that have played the VR part of the update early have seen this. They've seen it working. They've seen NPCs walking around stations. Fine, at the moment that's only in space stations. It might never go further than that, but I think it's definitely plausible at least to think that we might see a bit of that spilling out into the world. All of these features, all of these things, they're things that you've heard before. Heck, you've heard me talk about them many times before. They're things that at one point people were really excited for and expecting to be in the game. Things that Hello Games probably expected to be in the game as well, or at least wanted to add at one point in time. So as scary as it is to kind of let your hype go crazy and think that this kind of stuff might really be coming, I have to say that deep down, this is genuinely the kind of update that I'm thinking we're going to get with Beyond. And not just because it's all stuff we know they've talked about or worked on in some shape or form before, but because all of it addresses one massive thing that every single No Man's Sky player, fan, follower has at least heard about, probably thought about themselves before when it comes to what they'd want to see in an update. It would add so much for people who just love to explore. Heck, that's why most of us fell in love with the game in the first place. Exploration. That sense of wonder and discovery that No Man's Sky had. The awe you feel when you see something you've never encountered before. That's what I think this final part of the update is gonna be. We've got VR, we've got multiplayer, we've had all kinds of optimizations, improvements, and new cool things to do with all of the updates that have come to the game. But I feel like this is gonna be the one that brings worlds and exploration to life with a level of variety that we've never seen before. The Everything update, the last big content update, the Explorer update. Before we end the video, I did want to say a very, very big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You guys are freaking amazing. Acac, Anakey, Dale from the Atlas Hub, David D, DeadDerezzer, Forgotten Stoner, Heath, Jeremy J, Johannes A, Jtecnique, Kyle Culver, Lukash M, Foraday, Madeline J, Malindog, Mark F, Marky D, Mbal23, Mingrui, Neil B, NTB, Ongrad, Autumn Long, Paul L, Rasmus K, Shirokumajelly, Wise Gek G, Technical Gaming 101, the Golden Gek, Todd C, Todd H, TyTheBlazer, and Vanella. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for continuing to support me and what I do.